Well. How's it going, everyone? It's gonna feel real good saying this. Welcome back to the channel. There will be plenty of time to talk about things, but for right now, I'm here for Guild Wars 2. A brand new expansion, Janthir Wilds, is just about to release, and I'm excited for it. Because Guild Wars 2 is my primary MMO that I play these days, and I also want to briefly share some thoughts about the expansion we're about to leave behind, Secrets of the Obscure, which I will be calling SotO from here on out. We've had almost a year to play and experience the SotO expansion, and I had planned on a lengthy video review which I'm going to can for now, due to how fast the next expansion is creeping up, but I'd still like to point out some things that I liked, given I've been radio silent since End of Dragons, and that was, 2 years ago now? So for starters, we can't really talk about SotO without touching on Guild Wars 2's new content rollout strategy, which is no longer waiting for a huge expansion every few years, but instead a yearly expansion cycle with quarterly updates. And SotO is the first expansion to adopt this model back in 2023. ArenaNet believes that shorter expansion cycles, which pushes out quarterly content updates until the following expansion comes out the next year, is the way to go. According to them, they think it produces good quality content consistently, while ensuring that developers face less crunch, and I think that's agreeable. And while there are definite upsides, like the consistent updates, you can't ignore the downsides too. For example, quality content in MMORPGs are subjective to the customer/player, and it's a hard thing to judge when, for example, one quarter we get less new or meaningful updates and content compared to another. I can appreciate that the updates are faster now, however, and other MMOs I play, like The Elder Scrolls Online, has been on this model for years, and it works incredibly well for those of us that do play it, as we know there's always new content coming tied to a year-long narrative that doesn't cost a lot of money. So back to SotO, what exactly did this expansion add to Guild Wars 2 over the past year that I want to talk about, in terms of what was worth the money? So things that I absolutely approve from SotO's release are the Wizard Vault and its new dailies, for one. These have definitely given dailies an uplift, with a good enough variety for folks across all three game modes, PvE, World vs. World, and PvP. The weeklies are pretty great too, and completing these vault tasks grants you the Astral Acclaim currency, which can be spent in the vault to get useful items, skins, and gold, your choice really. While free players don't get access to this, it totally makes the expansion purchase somewhat worthwhile, especially when you consider the next thing, which is easier skyscale acquisition for new players. So unlike the previous method, which involved way too many steps and time gates for new players, SotO's skyscale requirements are embedded into the early story content, and that is not a slog. The new mastery that unlocks the Fireball ability is really neat, and does somewhat make your skyscale a lot more engaging, because you can take fights from the air and things like that. SotO also introduced a new set of legendary armor that can be acquired entirely through PvE in the expansion, which is a huge plus for those that dislike the game's competitive modes. The Obsidian armor comes in 2 tiers, the higher one unlocking some flashy combat prompt animations, while the base version is technically all you'll ever need, since that gives you the free stat swapping. Yes, it will be grindy, time-consuming, and expensive, especially with your ectoplasm and rift hunting essences, as it should be, because this can be considered an endgame goal for new players that can be done in the comfort of PvE, unlike those of us who had to grind raids or World vs. World or PvP for those armor sets. Overall, great addition for players who don't have legendary armors, and for those who want to take that next step into trying more difficult content, and being able to have free stat swapping armor for all characters on your account can absolutely help facilitate that. And just keep in mind that pursuing the legendary Obsidian armor, it can be repetitive as time goes on because of convergences and rift hunting content. The former, I think, is a decent addition to the game, in terms of public or private instance group content, where up to 50 players get to tackle a hard raid-like boss, each with its own mechanics. It sort of gets your feet wet for harder content like strikes and raids, or even the challenge mode for convergences itself if you're new to the game and want something that is slightly more challenging than meta boss fights. Rift hunting, on the other hand, they're okay until it's your 500th one, then maybe you'll change your mind, but these can be done in small groups, and you can even do them solo, which is appreciated. Speaking of meta and boss fights, there's one I really like. It's called the Spider's Lair. In the 3rd new Nio Zone, it is the 3rd meta, and it's a huge boss fight that requires ad-clear coordination, boon upkeeps, and more. It's a pretty intricate fight for a public boss, but there are downsides in my opinion, and the biggest one is that it can take hours to get to that fight. You'll need to complete both the first and second meta bosses in order to unlock this one. And as someone who plays on non-primetime hours these days, it can be pretty hard to get it going unless you tag up and start things yourself. Now for time reasons, I've got to move on, but overall, SotO does add plenty of good things like the new specializations, which are pretty fun for me, but suffers in other areas like the story, which I won't get into here, but we'll just say that because of how spread out the story comes with the new content rollout, in parts the continuity felt pretty off, jarring even, and design choices that revolve around filling a bar with event completions that reoccurs in multiple story steps, it just kills any narrative momentum for me. I do, however, like the new characters. I think the setting is cool, so I do hope in the next expansion they do this a little better. So if you're a new player, do I recommend getting the Secrets of the Obscure expansion? And I'll say yes, for multiple reasons, like the easier to obtain Skyscale mount and the PvE legendary armor on top of the Wizard's Vault. I definitely recommend getting it alongside Path of Fire as great first purchases if you are new to the game. And that sums up my brief thoughts about the Secrets of the Obscure expansion as a whole for now. And I do apologize that it has to be short because there's something else big to talk about, and that of course is Guild Wars 2's very next expansion. It's 5th in total, Janthir Wilds, which is coming out, well, very soon if you didn't know, and by the time you watch this, maybe even tonight. For those who haven't been following, this new expansion's main selling point is the upcoming Homestead system, aka a form of instanced player housing. There's also going to be land spears for every class moving forward, the new maps in the Janthir region of course, with brand new story content, and the return of 10-man raids. Let's focus on each of these quickly. First up we have Homesteads. When ArenaNet first announced Homesteads, I was pretty surprised. I did not think they'd actually introduce a personal housing system to the game some 12 years after launch, and considering we already have home instances in every race's capital city, this seemed like a redundant thing. But with more details that they've now shown in live streams and previews, we know it's going to be a pretty cool system because there's much more to it. For example, you'll be able to add your personal touch with decorations, and that's important because the previous home system in cities gave players zero agency when it came to customization. There will be a new crafting profession and mastery just for homesteads and decorations, on top of being able to display your rare weapons and armor, and it'll be a one-stop destination for all your harvesting nodes, which means everything that you've already unlocked in your city home instance, like your gathering nodes, they'll all carry over. And the one thing that I really like is being able to have all your alt characters and mounts just hanging out in your homestead. Now, I think that having some form of personal housing is a smart decision by ArenaNet because, believe it or not, it's a popular system with MMORPGs, and it can be a potential money maker down the line. Take a look around the MMO space, like the Elder Scrolls, for example, again, another MMO that I play a lot. Their housing system keeps growing year on year with new decoration and properties, both of which can be found in the game's Crown Store. And they are popular because they do have functionality, like storage, crafting stations, player buffs, and quick travel. Therefore, it would not surprise me if ArenaNet does something similar and adds like exclusive decoration and maybe a teleport stone or something in the gem store in the near future to make some money off the system. And I won't begrudge them that because it works. People will spend money on housing, myself included. Moving on to land spears quickly, I initially groaned because it's not a new weapon being added to the game, and I've wanted one for a long time. But it's an existing one, being made wieldable on land for all professions. For those who don't know, spears were previously a underwater weapon. However, having played the spear beta back in June, I can totally see the allure. Some classes that lack mobility now have gap-closing abilities, for example, and I can't lie. Aesthetically, being able to wield a spear with some of the new combat animations, like the Guardians, looks pretty badass. A new legendary spear and backpack will be coming in a much later update, one of the quarterly updates down the line, so that's something to look forward to as well, if you need something new to grind post the obsidian armor like me. And then there's the Warclaw mount, and I think it will be getting the Skyscale treatment as well, because it's going to get a new mastery in the coming expansion that will unlock a double jump feature among other things. And I really like that because we're going to see the Warclaw get more usage in PvE outside of just world versus world. And then in 2025, PvPers will be getting a brand new game mode, and I'm somewhat interested having not touched structured PvP in a long time. We're talking years here. And then of course there's the return of 10-man raid content. ArenaNet must have seen something in recent times with existing strike and raid content engagement among the player base to give raids another go. And I'm pretty happy for raiders and strikers in general because the interest has always been there, no matter how small. I think they've said there's going to be 3 raid bosses or 3 wings, and it will be tied to the story in some way. So if you want a more challenging narrative experience, raids could be fun to do in this coming expansion. There's a lot more coming as well in the quarterly updates, which I'll definitely find the time to share my experience about. And so far, yeah, everything coming with today's expansion launch and the following quarterly updates all sound really good for the base price of what, $25? And I can't wait to see just how much the Homestead system especially will grow and what ArenaNet will add to it in future updates. Well, that's it for this video, folks. And again, I know I've been gone a while, and there's so much to catch up on in terms of the MMO space and what's currently going on with new launches and stuff, and I'll slowly ease back into that. For right now, my focus is on Guild Wars 2 and the new expansion, of course, coming sometime, I don't know, depending on when you watch this, it could be in 6 hours, but it's definitely within the next 24 hours. So for those of you jumping into the expansion, hey, have fun, enjoy yourselves, and let me know which features you're most excited about down in the comments. And before I go, you guys, I can't believe I nearly lost this channel due to inactivity, and there's a bunch of channel features that I don't have anymore. I'm also not monetized, so if you're seeing ads here, hey, that's not me. I'm just happy to be back again. So hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. I'm Adrian, and I thank you for watching.